What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to you, the digital agency owner that wants to scale faster, have a lot better time, and really be the fly on the wall about two agency owners chatting back and forth. Today, I have a great episode where I have someone that's going to talk to you about what they did at their agency to build a course that made them a lot of money, as well as fed them a lot of business for their agency services. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Katie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome to chat with you again. For the people that don't know you, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yep, my name is Katie White, and I have been saying recently, I don't know if it's cool or sad, but I have been a career-long social media marketer. So I own a content and social media marketing agency, and we also now have an education arm of the company.
Awesome. And let's kind of dive into it a little bit, but let's give them a little bit of backstory. How did you start your agency?
I started my agency when, I guess this is probably a really common story. I couldn't figure out how to, and it's definitely common for social media marketers, couldn't figure out how to get paid what I wanted to get paid doing what I wanted to do. So yeah, it just was one of those. I had a really great first job, a really bad second job, had to quit, and then did the math. How many clients do I need at what retainer to replace my income? And then all of a sudden I started an agency. Yeah.
Well, now I'm curious. What was the shitty second job? You don't have to name the company, but what?
Yeah, I won't name it, but I made a mistake. I went from an action sports company into a beauty company.
Oh.
And yeah, and while beauty probably isn't the best fit for me, this was just like, it was pretty toxic leadership. I think I was the 12th person to turn over. I left after 7 months with shingles. And I was like the 12th person to turn over in like a 10-person department in a year, something crazy like that. So
you had the nightmare boss? Is that?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't necessarily my direct boss, but the leadership of the company just, yeah, it was not inspiring.
Well, tell us a little bit more details about that.
I'm scared.
Well, no, just because there's a lot of people that we want to make sure they are not this kind of boss. Where because there's a lot of agency owners listening right now. We'll get into the real content in a second, but I just find this kind of interesting is like, what demotivated you? Because obviously when you went to work for them, you were probably excited. And then what changed?
Yeah. So I think a few things. One was the external sort of marketing and mission of the company and what they said they were about. Once you got on the inside, it was clear that we weren't necessarily living our values, which was an immediate turn off because I'm definitely a huge company culture freak. And so that was demotivating. There was a situation of co-CEOs, which maybe that works sometimes. It was
so one person telling you one thing, the other telling you another.
Yeah, and it was sort of why it was sort of an indicator, why wasn't there able to be a delineation anyway? And yeah, the founder, who was really the face of the brand, was supposed to not be on the marketing side. She was supposed to be on product, but she was very much on the marketing side. And I think there was it was very much butts in seats. I'm in digital marketing. I can do my job from anywhere. I know that wasn't huge back then, but I went from kind of having a pretty flexible work schedule to we've just got to be here at 8:00 in the morning and stay until 5, regardless of it was very rigid. It just felt like we were worried about the wrong things. And then I think there is a lesson, I think, when it comes to the topic of social media, especially for brands that are growing and founders that care a lot about their brand and how it's communicated. I think when there's a lack of alignment and a lack of a roadmap, it makes it really hard to delegate. So I was in that seat. It was the worst seat I could be in. I was trying to set up their content strategy and grow them on social media. And that had been the founder's baby. And so it was just, and she wasn't skilled at giving direction, and it wasn't strategic. And so there was a lot of conflict there.
So big lesson learned is really, you got to live by the values that you say you do when you hire someone, and then get the freak out of the way
Yes.
and let your people
Yes.
do what they are designed to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Precisely.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, let's jump into it. I had to go down that rabbit hole because, I know I was a horrible boss for many years, and I remember getting rid
Yeah.
of some really good people. If I look back at it and going, that was my fault, and I just don't want, I want people
Yeah.
to get through it as fast as possible because no one comes out a good boss right off the bat.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm totally aligned. We talk about that a lot. With the brands that I consult as well. I think I'm really invested. For me, when I left corporate, I remember just like a huge question that I've had for a long time is like, why are there so many amazing brands that suck to work for? And it all comes back to leadership, and it's when you think about like waste, it keeps me up at night just thinking about like how many incredible brands, incredible products, incredible people are stuck in situations that, we all spend most of our life for better or worse working. And there are these like small tweaks you can make when it comes to leadership that, make all the difference in the world. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, if you can be a better leader and you can create leaders in the organization, you don't need to be working more than having fun.
Right.
Like I feel
Right.
like I finally got to a place in my life where it's flip flopped. I have more
Yep.
fun throughout the
Yep.
day,
Yep.
than the others. So, well, let's talk about. There's a lot of agency owners listening right now and I'm not going to say passive income, even though I love Pat Flynn and I love his podcast, but I always hated that name because you have to work.
It's a lie.
You're right. There's nothing passive
Yeah.
about it. But income that comes not from services. So you created a product or a program,
Yeah.
and you sold it to a lot of prospects that then went through, you got paid, and then turned into clients. So take me back to the beginning of going, was it successful in the very beginning? Why'd you do it? What are some of the
Yeah.
things that you've learned?
Sure. So we launched in April 2020, but the beginning I think was really in 2019. And I was becoming pretty obsessed with, our agency had kind of quickly, I don't remember if we were at 500,000 in revenue then, but I had a couple hires. I had tried to start delegating some of the work I was doing, and I was just seeing that I was totally screwing it up and I needed to systemize everything. And so we really took a lot of time, and a lot of resources to start building out like how we do what we do. And within, I'm sure if there's content and social media agency owners listening to this, they can empathize that like systemizing the creative process is a beast. And so we were really spending a lot of time there in 2019, and it was all, I always had in the back of my mind, it would be cool to, have some passive income with a course, but we didn't go, we weren't making moves. We were really just focused on it so that we could grow our agency roster, like client roster. And then the pandemic hit, and it was March 2020. And I had a couple tough breaks as well right before that with bigger clients that, all signs had pointed to them renewing. One was acquired, that kind of thing. And so going into the pandemic, we were a little bit rocky to start. And then, I had no brands in the essential category. They're all just sort of like fun CPG or lifestyle brands. So it was a really scary time. I had a really small team at the time, but I had just made a couple of hires, and we were just sort of, for me, it just became really clear at that point. I always say, I think I might be a little bit better in a crisis than when I have a lot of options. But it was just like, we have one play to make, and this is what we're going to do. So I had been spending just so much time in the world of how we do what we do that we just kind of approached it as like, all right, we work with a lot of brands that are anywhere between 10 million and $100 million in revenue. We are a premium agency. We're really performance focused, but we're pretty we're a unicorn in that we develop really, really great creative, but we're also super focused on performance. And so if we were to say to smaller brands, hey, and we knew that everyone was trying to figure out now at this point, like a lot of smaller brands are trying to figure out how to pivot online. And so our point of view is just kind of like, okay, if you were our client, here's what we'd do. And just took them through this process. And so gave in this first course that we launched, it was really just like a crash course, trying to be as comprehensive as possible without getting people stuck in the weeds, giving them a more holistic view of what social media marketing is supposed to do, what it can do, how to do it, how to make it systemized and like aligned to your goals and all of that good stuff. So that was step one.
Did you find that people going through it, now that they understood how to do social media, they'd be like, screw it, man, I don't want to do it. Can you just do it? Like, because a lot of people want to understand how it works, but they just don't want to put in the time. Because what I find is a lot of times people will buy a program thinking it's a silver bullet. That's why I always laugh at certain people. I'm like, yeah, there's no freaking way there's anything called a silver bullet. You have to take this and then apply it.
Yep. Yeah. So I think social's funny because it totally depends on your skill set. So we certainly had a lot of people that were like, okay, this was so good. Thank you so much. I know I definitely don't want to do this work. And we had other people who were like, oh my gosh, I feel like everything just clicked. And I understand that I don't need to do all this baloney that I was worried about. I can just focus on this. It really is a little bit of a mixed bag, but we certainly had we still have folks coming through saying, oh, thank you. Now I know I don't want to do this.
And what about, since you've done this, we're the time we're recording this, it's 2022, I think, right? Yeah, 22.
Yeah. Still.
I don't remember the year anymore.
I'm with you.
Is that pretty bad? Like, I'm like, man.
No, I'm with you. Anytime I'm in a conversation and I'm trying to like anchor myself in time, I feel like I'm losing it. So nope.
Yeah. I'm with
you.
So it's been a couple years. Have you seen people that went through it a couple years ago and now that they've come back to you and want your agency services?
Yeah. So we definitely, we did some tweaking too, kind of to our agency services, tried to, our content strategy projects were pretty big and robust, and we've found ways to right size them a little bit to that flow of folks that are coming in. So our like self-serve courses we find are really good for those brands, probably like under 2 million. And then in between 2 and 10, we're starting to be able to provide services through our agency. And so, yeah, I mean, it depends. We kind of had both sides. We had brands that were like, wow, this was amazing. You mentioned this one thing in this course. Can you give us another course on that? Can you give us mentorship? Can you give us more of what you're doing? And then we had other folks come to us. And it was great. I mean, before that, we were just paying for leads for the agency and taking all these calls. And then all of a sudden we had a wait list for calls. We were able to look at a whole spreadsheet and be like, oh my gosh, we know that brand. Let's get them on a call. Or be able to kind of look at who qualified based on their revenue and what they were looking to do. It really changed the game for us in terms of lead flow for the agency. So yeah, it was great.
Well, what I find too is when you put out content or a course, it kind of separates you from a lot of other people. It kind of puts you on as like an advisor. Yeah. I had Zach is one of my first clients and been a client for 8 years. And I remember and he's not a client anymore because he's gone on to be the chairman of the agency. He doesn't run the agency anymore. So we designed it that way. And I remember him coming to me about a year ago. He was like, hey, I think I'm going to create a mastermind for my clients that we go after. He's like, what do you think of that idea? I said, I think it's a great idea because I told you about this 2 years ago.
That's funny. Yeah.
And you have a mastermind as well. So kind of why I'm bringing this up is, did it start as kind of, let's do a program for the lower tier, the do-it-yourselfers, and then we can make some money, and then hopefully that feeds them into the agency. When did you start thinking about doing a mastermind for your clientele?
Yeah, I would say that essentially 2020, it was like, oh my God. Like I remember the very first day, like, and I was obviously ready and prepared to launch this ad and do this course. I had been kind of hanging out in Julie Stoyan's mastermind for a while, like, so just learning through osmosis what it's going to take to launch a course. And that first day, it was like sales hitting, our conversion rate, everything was working, which is really rare. And so we started putting everybody into a Facebook group just so we could hear what they were saying. They were asking for more. So that first year, we're just like doing whatever they ask us for. And then the next year, so then 2021 was all about like, so naive, experiment, experiment, experiment. And so we continued to experiment with all these offers. And like we came into 2021 just so hot. And by the end of 2021 we're just so burnt out. And so that year we had learned a lot about like who we were capable of advising and what kind of work we really liked to do. And so for me, the mastermind was a way for us to say, you know, there's a few reasons why we decided to do it. Folks want to work with us. They appreciate our mentorship that like was coming through loud and clear. Folks were also asking us for more than social media, right? So we started as these social media, but we had also like our vantage point. A lot of my team members, we've worked with for really big brands that kind of represent where our clients are trying to get to in some cases. We ourselves have come up through, you know, all of this over the last 5 years. So we had a lot more to offer than social media. And folks, you know, were explaining like they're tired of having to go to this person for this thing, this person for this thing, and they just wanted it all kind of inside. So we were trying to sort of, again, just keep doing what folks were asking us to. And then internally, the appealing part of that was saying, okay, right now we're going in way too many different directions. If we kind of I had 3 different offers that folks that we were allocating like support to, and this was an opportunity to consolidate, take everything we had learned, take everything we had produced, and consolidate it into one place for us to give our support.
Yeah, there's a lot kind of you pack together. What I find is when you're an agency, your other clients that you help want to probably chat with other clients to see what's working for them, what's not working for
Right.
them, have ideas. And if you can
Yes.
get them together as an added bonus of working
Yeah.
with you, one, that's going to help. And then also, two, if you're bringing other people in that are not working with the agency already and they're a part of the mastermind, paying, that's the thing. Don't create a free mastermind. Your clients should
Yep.
get it free, I feel. And
Yep.
then what will happen is that process, or that new member that's not working with your agency will ask a question, and then the clients will sell, oh, you should definitely use Katie to do X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z. And it's just, you don't have to do anything. It's just you're
Yep.
connecting people together. But you did say something like, you can get in so many directions. That's what I don't want to have happen for all of you listening, going, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm already
Don't do that.
underwater with my agency. Now, Jason and Katie are saying I need to create a course and a mastermind. How the hell am I going to do that? You have to pick and choose your battles and build it over time. It doesn't like everything. I always tell everybody, everything big starts off small. So get little wins, maybe do
Yep.
like this one little program and test it out. You give it to your clients for free or give it to people for free and then
Yep.
see if it has some legs to it and go from there. What would you recommend to yourself so you don't get overwhelmed? Because before the show, we were talking about the biggest KPI that I know I measure in my mastermind is happiness.
Yeah, that was after 2021 and finishing super burnt out. That was sort of like everything needs to stop and fall behind happiness. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's something that we talk about all the time with our clients. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about social media, digital marketing, like holistically, or just brand building, business building in general, is like the biggest lie about business growth is that the more you do, the faster you'll grow. And I look around and like when I look at my peer set and masterminds that I've been in, you know, we have grown faster than the folks we've done less than. What I mean by that is like you start to have success with something, or you're not having success with something, and all of a sudden it's like, I need a YouTube channel, I need a podcast, I need a TikTok, I need a this and a that. And it's like, you know, we don't have a TikTok channel. as a social media agency, that has certainly kept me up now for years. But it's like, if we have more customers than we have Instagram followers, and I'd take it that way all day long, So I think that idea of, not biting off more than you can chew, which is like a laughable thing to say to entrepreneurs, but really trying to do one thing at a time and do it well, and know why you're doing it, know how it like actually contributes to the end game of what you're trying to achieve is like the best advice I could give.
Awesome. Well, this has all been amazing, Katie. Is there anything I didn't ask you as I hit something over on my desk that I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience listening in?
I don't think so, but I guess one thing I would say is, if you are thinking about creating a course out of the services you do, one of the things you mentioned that kind of dovetailed this is, it gives prospects an opportunity to see how you approach your work, which is like they're buying something from you to then be like, oh, I want you to do this for me. So that's really great. And I think, creating whatever you create, if you're productizing your services, like doing that in community with your audience, with your lists. So when you have an idea of a course, saying, hey, I'm thinking about putting this out, and getting feedback on it along the way will make sure it sells right away. And will lead to better conversion once you launch it.
I have another question kind of on top of that. So when you're building your program, I'm ADD, so I'm going to go all over the place.
I love it.
But did you start focusing on building your personal brand or really building the agency brand?
Oh God, before we launched this course, I mean, I was barely doing any marketing. We had a lead gen funnel, but my personal brand, my agency brands, neither one of them I would say I was actively building. And we couldn't, I wanted to come up with like a cool name for my agency. Couldn't come up with anything cool. So I just said, until I do, it's going to be KW Content, my initials. So then at that point, like the brand and my personal brand kind of collapsed onto each other, which is why I'm so excited about Strong Brand Social, because we've have this chance to like build a brand that's bigger than me with its own identity.
It's always funny coming up with your name for your company is always the hardest. I mean, look at my company name is Jason Swenk.
Yeah. That's like, if you can't come up with something cool, that was my thing, is I was like, I'm not going to do something that's not any better than KW Content and build a bunch of collateral around that. But
in my first company, well, the first company I registered was Swenk Technologies. And then when I partnered with someone else, that's when we were like Sesame Street, Solar. I think I like Velocity, but that was taken. And then my business partner at the time was a real like Star Trekkie. And so he said Solar, and we kind of put it together, Solar Velocity. And I was like, oh,
I like that.
Yeah. It was available.
It's hard. It's hard. Like as a digital marketing company, I think it's really hard to come up with something that's not taken.
Oh, especially now. Like, we'd be like, I mean, I was telling you about the other podcast I came up with. I went through all kinds of names, and I was like, oh, it's taken. And then finally I was just like this, and it wasn't. I'm like, I'll buy it now.
It's a process.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. What's the agency URL that people can go to?
Go to kwcontent.com or strongbrandsocial.com.
Awesome. Well, go to there, check that out. And thanks so much, Katie, for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode and you want to be around other amazing agency owners where we can have some fun, we can see the shit you're doing wrong, we can guide you in the right direction. You can help people, be a part of really amazing community of the best agency owners all over the world. Go to digitalagencyelite.com. That's digitalagencyelite.com. And until next time, have a swank day.